I'm Mark Seifter.
And I'm Lindsay Zayas Palmer.
And that's Terrapoof. And this is Arcane Mark. I'm Mark Seifter.
And I'm Lindsay Zayas Palmer.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
And welcome to Arcane Mark. Today we are going to talk about the element of air. Air is an element of unrestricted mobility. It's breezy, it's capricious, it's always moving, and you never know where it's going to be. Air, flight, and getting up out there, it can be a very powerful thing in tabletop RPGs, and we're going to show you several builds to take advantage of mobility and speed in order to bedevil many of your enemies. Maybe not dragons, they're really fast. They can fly all over the place. But a lot of your foes are not going to know what to do if you use the combinations that we're going to discuss here with air. So, at first level, as usual, when we go into these eldamon elements, and just for everyone who, this is your first element, hey, it's alphabetically first, it might have made sense, we're going to discuss the powers and the builds that you can start building together with the powers, and tell you which powers to take on which type of build. Then we're going to move into the various utility stuff that an avatar of that element can get. And then lastly, we'll go to the eldamon themselves, such as Terrapoof, and explain which of those eldamon is best with each of the builds that we've been discussing so far throughout the episode. So, let's begin.
At level 1.
At level 1, as always, we're going to have 2 active powers, 1 reactive power, and 1 refresh power to start off with. Our first level powers, as Linda definitely knows since I recently was playing a Terrapoof elemental avatar in one of her games, are Backlash Gust and Wind Rush. They are 2 different ones, one for approaching, one for backing off. So, Wind Rush is often going to be your opener on a lot of turns. It's 2 actions in Pathfinder. Now, the D&D version, very similar to this, so it just takes your action on your turn. We're going to be discussing the Pathfinder terminology, but everything we say is more or less true in D&D. The damage dice are usually 1 step higher, but then there are fewer of the dice in D&D. So if we say it's D8s, in D&D it's D10s, and there aren't as many D10s. So, Wind Rush does D8s of damage after striding 2 times forward. It's almost like a sudden charge. Even if it misses, it does a little bit of damage. So, a very strong opener for air at level 1 is to Wind Rush as your first 2 actions, and then use your 3rd action to run the heck away.
Yes.
If you don't think you can, or there's a reason why not to do that, such as, like, leaving a flank for your ally, or the enemy is ranged or something like that, you can also put up your, if you're an elemental avatar, or the right kind of eldamon trainer that has this, an air shield with your other action. There's other things to do, but a Wind Rush followed by a retreat can be a very good way to engage and then disengage from your opponents. It's a single melee power attack for those d8s of damage. Now, your Backlash Gust is going to help you disengage again if the enemies catch up to you, or if you happen not to have disengaged with Wind Rush. So, a Backlash Gust is a 20-foot line at first, although it scales up to 60 feet by 17th level. It does D6s of damage in that line, and you can push yourself back in the opposite direction of the line up to an amount equal to the length of the line. So, for example, with Backlash Gust, you see a line where, 20 feet would actually hit these 3 creatures. I don't exactly want to be next to them, but that's fine. I have to go next to one of them if I want to hit all 3, probably. I mean, it's only a 20-foot line.
Yeah.
So I do it, but then I launch myself 20 feet backwards with the sort of like, pachoo! And now I'm actually 20 feet away from that first one.
So even with these 2 starting powers, you can see that air is very much about tactical positioning and controlling where you are on the battlefield. It's going to be really helpful whenever your party starts at a reasonable distance from their opponents to letting you close that distance, whether that is over an open field like we definitely had an encounter in the game where Mark's running Jewel of the Indigo Isles, where like the air elemental avatar Where people were like, oh, it's hard to get up to folks, but or the air eldamon rather, we're letting people move up closely too.
Yes, so the air elemental avatar actually used the rules for a tiny sized PC riding him, even though in Pathfinder 2 the rules are pretty strict. Each of the people loses an action for doing that. But because the air elemental avatar was so much faster, the tiny friend was could go 20 feet per move, and they needed to go 100 some. And the avatar could just constantly use the refresh power that we're about to get up to move 120 feet for 2 actions. So even with 1 action reduced, could easily just handle that. So
let's talk about that refresh power.
But first we usually do our reactive power.
Yeah.
So this reactive power is very useful. In fact, thanks to the skirmishing style of movement in the game I'm playing with Linda, the only time that I even really had to pay the price for what I had done was when I forgot to use Dispersing Retreat. I did get knocked out because I forgot to use it. If I had, there was a choke point I could have retreated past, and I would have been fine. So this is your starting reaction. When you take damage from a hostile action, you disperse your form to air and stride 25 feet, ignoring difficult and greater difficult terrain. If an effect is immobilizing you, it attempts to counteract that immobilizing effect and your air, so most reactions can't hit you during that time. At the end of the movement, you return to normal.
So this is super useful if you're in a situation where an opponent is going to be able to hit you multiple times, you've gotten yourself surrounded or things like that. You don't need to worry too much because you can back yourself out after you've gotten hit the first time.
That's right. Also, as Rico mentioned in chat, anytime an air power says you stride up to twice your speed, if you have a fly speed, you can also fly. Most of the air eldamon do, but if their eldamon trainer is on the ground, because of the connection between them, they do have to end their turn on the ground. But once you can meld into your eldamon, that restriction is gone. And also at about the same level, elemental avatars can just fly, and we're going to start going wild when we start talking about those levels, because you can just do some outrageous things from a distance. So when we move on to refresh powers, this is the one we were talking about that was so mobile that it was used as a ferry service to bring tiny-sized allies to where they needed to go. It's called Rushing Refresh. It flat out refreshes all of your other powers, and you stride 3 times for 2 actions. Talk about action economy. Right? You move 3 times for 2 actions and get all your powers back. I have not, in the game where I'm playing an air elemental avatar, used that and been well, I'm not done with stuff yet, but I really want to stride 3 times. But our elemental avatar in Jewel of the Indigo Isles has done it numerous times, where it was just oh, yeah, I haven't used my stuff yet, but I'd really like to be 4 strides closer to the battlefield instead of 1. So I'll just use a Rushing Refresh, sometimes as his opening move.
Yeah, well, I think that part of that is that Jewel of the Indigo Isles tends to have more expansive maps than a lot of
Age of
Ashes. Yeah. Whereas in Age of Ashes, it's definitely can be useful because in tight quarters, you can move around and be several rooms away from your opponent. It's not necessarily quite as essential to have that much movement at one time as it is whenever you're in a larger, more open complex.
Correct.
Or if you're in a situation where time is of the essence for whatever reason, maybe you're in a complex encounter where you don't just have to defeat the enemies, there are other objectives that are going on at the same time.
Rushing Refresh is probably either the most useful refresh power, which you would even just use instead of your active powers, or the least useful, depending on your campaign. It's so good when you actually need to move around that, like I said, we had our avatar just using it, just even though he had other things he could do. Whereas in Age of Ashes, I could have used another refresh power instead. Maybe my Age of Ashes avatar is going to pick up one of the other ones later on, whereas maybe our Jewel of the Indigo Owls avatar is going to stick with Rushing Refresh. He's gotten major use out of it. Or even take the feat to have multiple refreshes if he likes the other ones.
Rico's talking about using it to dash around pointlessly and enter the same square for the lulz.
I mean,
but it's very useful on big maps. But
if you're gonna do that, I suggest Centripetal Barrage, but we'll get there. So at 3rd level, you're gonna pick up one of the following 2 active powers, and this is really gonna help define who you are. Okay, so I picked Disrupting Gust. For my avatar, Disrupting Gust is a 25-foot cone that eventually grows to 45 feet. Its damage is very low. It's D4s. It's not even those D4s you've seen in some of these guys that are like, it also adds D4 and a half.
Yeah.
That do 3 average damage per dice. No. It is full on D4s. But even on a successful reflex save, the foe is off guard for 2 rounds. And if they fail, their reactions are going to be disabled as well. So you use this to turn off annoying enemy reactions, hopefully, and to throw foes off guard, potentially because you don't plan on getting in there to flank with your allies. You're an air avatar.
Yes,
you
but
don't
you
know
can
where
give
you're
them the
be.
benefit as if you were flanking them while being far away.
Another useful thing is only hits foes in the cone. Because of the fact that, like, yeah, it's important. I one time hit, like, an enormous number of spiders, and I was not in the front. And Linda was like, are you going to hit all of those allies who are also in this cone? I was like, only foes in that cone. Your other choice is Wind Sniper. Wind Sniper has, like, it doesn't have the longest range of any eldamon power when you start, but I believe that it eventually has the longest range of any non-ultimate power. It starts at 240-foot ranged attack for D6s.
Which is incredibly long, too. That's basically, like, on pretty much any map, you reach them.
It goes to 720 feet at 19th level. Now, this does not outrange Aeolus, Air's ultimate, that has a 1,000-foot long, 60-foot wide line, but it certainly is a lot of range.
Rico said that had a GM hand wave a fight where it was clear Terrorproof could not be caught, plus Wind Sniper.
Yes.
Yeah, if you're trying to, if the problem is a low hit point enemy escaping, then an Air Eldamon and Air Elemental avatars are pretty much the worst nightmare of those opponents.
In Jewel of the Indigo Isles, there's a little spy enemy that tries to run away from the party. That did not happen with the Air Elemental avatar. That's for sure. But Rico's talking about that the Terrapoof was running away from the enemy and then using Wind Sniper at incredible range. So you're going to have to decide, are you going to mix it in there with an AoE that only hurts your enemies and gives nice debuffs, turn off annoying reactions that your enemies might be using? Like, I mean, heck, if you Disrupting Gust a Hecaton Kyries, maybe it can't use its 100 reactive strikes against your party.
I mean, you have to assume it's not going to critically succeed, so...
Yes, hopefully it won't. Or Wind Sniper for incredibly long range. They're both great. They kind of define your play style. Are you going to be skirmishing but getting in, like, close-ish? Or are you going to try to stay as far away as possible? And in which case, maybe take that with Backlash Gust, back you off a little bit if you get in too close.
Whereas if you need to get into the combat, you might have Wind Rush Disrupting Gust to enter and then disrupt.
Which is, by the way, exactly what my Air Avatar currently has. So, okay, level 5. We're going to be picking up 2 things at level 5. So let's look closely at what our options are. I mean, I should look at this because I'm level 4. So I'm going to get to level 5 soon. I'm going to have to pick one of these. So Drifting Slash. Drifting Slash, unlike Wind Rush where you get to stride twice, move up to twice your speed in D&D, Drifting Slash, you only stride once, but you can break it up by attacking at any point along the way. So if you have a really fast movement, that means that you can just, like, move partially in, hit them, and then move away. By the way, that only took 2 of your actions, so you could then move after that.
And a very key line in this movement doesn't trigger reactions based on movement, such as reactive strikes.
Correct.
So you dart in, you make an attack along the way, and then
your enemies don't get any reaction against you, and then you're gone. So it is definitely a useful tool to have in your tool belt. If you're going to be the one who's rushing in, Wind Rush plus Drifting Slash, and at this level you can hold on to 3 active powers at the same time. So you could do Wind Rush, Drifting Slash, and Disrupting Gust, or Wind Rush, Drifting Slash, and the new power that we're about to say, because you can take 2 level 5 powers when you get to level 5. Whirlwind. Whirlwind is basically you stride, and then after the stride you deal d6s of damage in a 20-foot, an emanation of up to 20 feet. It hits everything, not just foes. Oh no, it only hits foes.
Only just foes, yeah.
It only hits foes. Really, there's no need to make it smaller than 20 feet, but you can if you want to. So Whirlwind is a very nice one because emanations, usually their weakness is that it has to be centered on you. But given that it moves you and you could possibly move before that, as long as you're okay with being in the middle of a bunch of enemies at the end of your turn, you probably can get to them in order to hit a whole bunch of them with Whirlwind.
I guess you would only want to shrink it if you were looking at something like not wanting it to be quite as big and obvious, or the GM thinking about it potentially affecting objects in the area.
That's right. So, alright, at 7th level, we're going to either pick up one of these 2 new active powers, or we can get another reactive power if we're not a fan of dispersing retreat. Oh, no, sorry. Reflect projectiles was the other reactive power. It was at level 5. If we didn't want to take both of the level 5 things.
Wait a minute, we have another level 5.
We haven't done the other level 5. Reflect projectiles. So if you don't want dispersing retreat, reflect projectiles is great. So if you are the ranged build, especially, the only way people are going to attack you
is
with
ranged
attacks because you're so far away, you're hiding behind people. You didn't want to get drifting slash. It wasn't that useful to you. You take reflect projectiles. Now, if a foe targets you with a physical ranged attack and you're aware of it, you can gain a +4, and if they get a critical failure, you redirect the attack to another target within range.
So then you make that really dangerous for them to make those later attacks by trying to get you in the end.
Also, the +4 lasts for the entire turn of that creature, which means it indeed, as Linda said, if they continue making attacks at a multiple attack penalty against your +4, the chances of them critically failing are really high.
Yeah.
And so
they can pretty much only safely afford to try to attack you once.
Yes.
And a lot of creatures aren't as strong in their range attack as they are in their melee attack. So you're going to make it really obnoxious for them to get to you. And then, of course, you could always just dash around a corner, too.
That's right.
Or behind cover and then come out.
And Rico points out Drifting Slash is great if for a single target attack against a foe you can't stay close to and still getting an off target by attacking when there's a flank. Absolutely. You could still do that with Wind Rush by spending your 3rd action to move, but with Drifting Slash you don't have to. You can still have up
that's a great point. You can pick exactly along the way what the best point is, too.
Alright. So at 7th, we can either remove Rushing Refresh if we don't want that for the new Refresh power, or pick up one of the 2 new active powers. So we have Aerial Trail. Aerial Trail, we stride twice, during which we can move straight through enemy squares, leaving a trail of wind blades in our path. Any creature...
And this isn't going to provoke reactions based on movement, or does it?
No, it does.
It does, okay.
It does.
It totally does.
Any creatures who enter one of the trail's spaces take d6s of damage. There's no save, there's no attack roll, there's no nothing. So if you want to... spend, I wouldn't say waste, maybe you've decided that it's worthwhile. If you want to spend, 9 squares of movement to fill all the spaces next to your, or even 8, I guess, you don't have to care about the one that they're in, because they only take the damage if they move into it. You spend 8 drawing a circle around your enemy, that means they either stay put, or they're going to take the damage. Now, they only take it once, even if they move through it multiple times, because you created, a multi-layer circle around them. So, this lets you not only run away, or move in, or whatever you're going to do, but you create this annoying area where there's no recourse if you move through, but to take a boatload of damage. And these D6s aren't entirely a boatload, but... they're still pretty good. The amount of damage that they actually take with no saving throw is about the same as, a fireball of that level.
Yeah.
Cast by a noob who is not, a sorcerer or somebody else with bonuses to their damage.
But still, it's going to be a heavy deterrent against the enemy moving.
Absolutely.
All the more reason to make them want to use ranged attacks. Oh, wait, if they use ranged attacks against you, you might have a reaction for that.
Yes. So, Aerial Trail is for sure pretty useful if you are going to be just moving around amidst your enemies. Now, Rico said at level 10, he stuck to some of the ones we were talking about there. The Whirlwind Drifting Slash Wind Sniper build from before and didn't even get tempted by 7th or 9th. Aerial Trail, because of it having no defense against it, is actually particularly good against big boss opponents who have strong saving throws. Your other choice at level 7 is Wind Cutter.
Have we been doing reflex for the primary defense against most things here?
All of them are reflex,
I was
except
trying
for
to
the
think if
ones
there were any
that were attack rolls.
and reflex. Yeah,
That's right. Now, I think there's a fortitude eventually, but so far all of them have been reflex. All right, so Wind Cutter deals D6s of damage in a 30-foot cone, but it's not a normal 30-foot cone that's coming from you. It actually, you launch a blade of wind that grows larger and larger as it moves from its origin point, cutting through all creatures in the way. It can start anywhere within 60 feet. So it starts at the 60 feet and then does the cone.
So that's a lot of shape potential at that point.
Yes. It's an enormous amount of shape potential compared to a cone coming from you. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if you want to keep
You also don't have to get up in there.
Yes, exactly. If you want to keep your enemies distant, Wind Sniper, Wind Cutter, and then out of all the rest of the ones that are here, you take your pick. You could do Aerial Trail as a, oh crap, they got here, now I'm going to run away. You could take Disrupting Gust or Backlash Gust because they are the ones that have the longest range of the remaining options. It's up to you. Now, your other level 7 choice...
Because you're realistically not going to always be able to start off far away from your opponents.
Yes.
So having something that you want to do to help get yourself farther away.
Especially if they are going to body block you, you can just move through them with Aerial Trail. So, your other level 7 choice is Wind Barrier. So, that's a refresh power. Instead of moving a lot, you put up a 1-round barrier. Physical ranged attacks take a penalty. -4 for arrows, bullets, bolts, etc. -2 for, like, a giant javelin. And no penalty if it's, like, a catapult.
So they take a penalty. I noticed that that's a penalty, whereas Reflect Projectiles gives you a bonus.
Correct. So if you use Wind Barrier, which gets you back your Reflect Projectiles, you can then get the bonus and give them the penalty.
So they're just not hitting you. They're gonna critically miss.
If they use an arrow, that's like a total of +4 to your AC and a -4 to their attack. That's -8.
Yeah. So pretty much anything that would have normally missed is going to be would be a critical miss that you then get to redirect.
So if you're the sniper build and you're confident that you can keep that distance without rushing refresh, grab a Wind Barrier. They're not going to be hitting you on your time off, or if they would, they probably would have crit you if you didn't do all this stuff. So, that's level 7. Let's move on to level 9. Level 9 has Flensing Leaps, which is almost like a Mario-style situation, where you basically keep leaping up to 30 feet onto the heads of different enemies, dealing D8s of damage, until you either basically, I think, critically fail, until you critically fail a power attack roll, which, by the way, don't apply multiple attack penalty until the end of doing it. Or until there are no new foes that you haven't bounced on within 30 feet of where you are. So
that's definitely a Mario.
Draw your path appropriately so you don't wind up snaking around and missing somebody because you can't jump back onto a foe that you've already jumped on.
So who are the Goombas then?
All of your enemies. Anything that you're fighting. You just jump on all of their heads. This is, some people have told me it's their favorite power in the book, not for its strength, but just because it's fun to jump on everybody's head. Alright? The other option is Rushing Embrace. So, Rushing Embrace is going to deal slashing damage to foes who melee attack you, and if you've moved at least 40 feet on your last turn, they're going to take more slashing damage.
And moving a lot is pretty easy for you.
It sure is. So this is a good one if you're going to be... it lasts until you refresh, so it's a pretty decent pre-buff if you're going to be mixing it up in the front, especially more for an avatar who can survive taking a hit. Air eldamon tend to be frail, which, fair, because they're really, really hard to actually get at.
That's typical for the for that kind of skirmishy archetype of the high mobility but lower durability type character.
That's right. That's right. So at 11th level, you've got not only 2 more active powers, but we've got our final reactive power. So our active choices are Zephyr Slash. That is, you move in a line of up to 120 feet, moving through any number of creatures as you do. The foes take D8s of damage, reflex save. If they fail, they can't use reactions until the end of your turn.
So we have another reaction preventer.
But that's only the end of your turn. Basically, they're not going to react to you.
I see, yeah.
Including reactions triggered by your movement. If they critically fail, they can't use reactions until the end of your next turn.
Gotcha.
So it's more of a, like, they have to succeed if they want to react to even the fact that you did this 120-foot line. Its damage is D8s, which is pretty good for for something that is 120 feet line long. It can also get you out of a sticky situation where there are a bunch of enemies and then you just kind of right through them, slicing them to pieces. Your other option is Gusting Curtain. So that
is definitely a way to move at least 40 feet on your last turn.
It sure is. Gusting Curtain is going to be a 60-foot long line curtain that does D6s of slashing damage, but half as many as these other powers.
It's 3 actions, right? Like
it's
the
3
usual...
actions, that's right. Anything that moves through takes D6s, and you give a +2 circumstance bonus to AC against your enemy's physical ranged attacks that go through it, other than, like, a catapult. But your allies, the winds accelerate their ranged attacks, and they get a +1 circumstance bonus to their attack rolls instead for shooting through the Gusting Curtain. So it's great for if you're the sniper and you and your allies are also have some ranged people who are in the back with you, and you're just like, I'll shoot through the curtain, and it's annoying for you to do it, and you take damage if you try to go through. Extra points if you have, and if your melee ally who's right on the other side of the curtain is good at pushing the enemies back through.
Oh yeah. So they come through, and then your melee is like, get back over there.
Get back over there. By the way, taking the damage again.
Yes.
A second time, now we get the +1 to attack you, and if you come through a third time, you take the damage again.
Now I'm imagining the group is like set up at the top of a cliff or whatever it is, like if they shove them back off the cliff and through the...
Absolutely.
And through the curtain.
Speaking of really annoying your enemy, the level 11 reaction power is Hindering Winds. This can also be a fun one if you're trying to keep at a distance and your enemies are approaching you, or just like you're up with your other allies at the front and you just want to annoy one enemy in particular. If any creature attempts to move towards you during a move action, they immediately have to attempt a fortitude save against wind that tries to prevent them from doing that. On a critical success, they're fine. Even on a success, all the movement towards you is difficult terrain during that move action. Only that move action. And greater difficult terrain if it would have normally been difficult. On a failure...
It'll cost them a little bit of movement.
On a failure, they cannot move towards you on that move action. They can still, like, move, like, around or just end that move action. On a critical failure, same as the failure, and they're knocked prone.
So if they want to move towards you, it's just like...
It's actually disrupted.
It's disrupted and knocked prone. So their move ends... Then they're knocked prone, and then they have to get up, and that's it. So
it's like they lost the first move, then they lose a second action standing up, and they only have one left, which they would have to use to move towards you if they want to. So basically, their entire turn is screwed if they get a critical failure on your reaction. They're just in huge, enormous trouble from that. All right, so... At 13th level, we have 2 choices. Gale Force Launch or Peregrine Gust. So Gale Force Launch, you fly up to 30 feet in the air, whether or not you normally have a fly speed. And then just kind of launch yourself 200 feet away where you basically plummet to the ground in the midst of a slashing explosion of wind. 30-foot emanation of D8s of slashing damage to everything. Including your allies, but hopefully they weren't 200 feet away wherever you rocket bombed.
You had a lot of choices of where you wanted to land, so...
That's right. Your other option is Peregrine Gust. It is a 500-foot line, except that at one point, with D8s of damage, one point along that 500-foot line, you can then turn it up to 90 degrees once.
Do you have to be able to see what's on the other side?
It just says you can turn it up to 90 degrees once.
I'm definitely imagining, like, you go down the hallway, like, and you do a sharp turn, and then you hit all the enemies that are coming down that way.
Hopefully you know that they're there. But yes, you could just turn your line, and that can be very funny. So that is what your choices are at 13th level. A 500-foot line goes great for the one that wants to keep their distance. Even Gale Force Launch could be a way to suddenly change your mind about keeping your distance and then come into the front. It's also great for just generally if you wanted to be in the front to begin with.
Or if maybe you wound up in the front but you want to engage their back line.
Yes.
Because their back line is... Because you're really having trouble with those melee attackers and it's easier to contend with the ranged attackers.
Also, keep in mind that Gale Force Launch does have an emergency usage of getting 200 feet away and doing a 30-foot emanation to nothing.
Yes.
If what you really want to do is move 200 feet. Because that is a lot of feet.
Yes.
It's more than rushing refresh. Although maybe not by enough to be worth using your active power on, but it's still something.
But there may be circumstances where you just really need to get out and you use that.
That's
for that
right.
reason. Mm-hmm.
So at 15th, we're going to be picking up 2 powers and we'll be able to have 4 active powers at once. So our options are 2 active powers. Centripetal Barrage. This is the one I said if you want to end where you start, you might as well use Centripetal Barrage. You stride up to 6 times and you have to end where you started. If you can't, because somebody like tripped you or something in the middle of it, the power stops there. If you do, then whatever rando shape you drew with your 6 strides, inside of that area, thousands of tiny wind blades erupt.
So you can make just any area you want to, essentially.
As long as you can reach it in 6 strides.
Which is a lot of movement.
D8s of slashing damage. That is a lot of movement.
Mm-hmm. It's like, I'm going to draw this little blob that coincidentally includes all of my enemies, but has these little root cutouts for all my allies.
Correct. But you do have to get around your allies, you kind of have to go, like, in around them so that there's, like, a sort of a concavity that they are not in. Because, but you can do it. You have 6 strides. Give it a shot. Your other option is Tornado. It's a 40-foot burst within 120 feet. Basically, it's going in a circle around that 40-foot burst. It deals... Not only does it deal D6s of damage, not D8s, but only to your enemies.
Mm-hmm. Is this one going to move them, too, since the wind's so fast?
Your allies can choose to go basically anywhere at the same distance from the center of the tornado, but anywhere around the circle. So if they were 20 feet from the center, they can be anywhere around the circle 20 feet from the center. Your enemies who fail, you can move them 10 feet along that circle, or if they critically fail, anywhere around the circle. But at the same distance from the center. So if they're exactly at the center, they don't move. Whereas if they're all the way 40 feet at the maximum distance, they move potentially the farthest.
You can throw them really far away or move them like basically into a flank.
But only if the flank is in the right spot.
Yes.
But yes. Absolutely. You can rotate everything around like a clock. So that's basically the situation on Tornado. Now, you're going to either have to pick up both of those. I mean, you don't have to. You can just keep your stuff like Rico did in the chat. Or we're going to pick up... Actually, wait. Level 13 was Ineluctable Flight. I'm sorry, guys. Level 13 was Ineluctable Flight. That was our last refresh. We could have picked it up even before this 15. But we can go back for it now at 15. It's a common strategy to go back for the 13 at 15 if you don't want both of the new 15s. So Ineluctable Flight is an alternative.
Or rather, you don't want both of the 2 active powers.
Yes. Well, which are the only 15s. Are the 2 active powers. Exactly. So instead of striding 3 times for 2 actions, with Ineluctable Flight, you can just simply choose a location within 100 feet, and you float there on the winds, ignoring difficult terrain, greater difficult terrain, hazardous terrain, any other kinds of terrain. You move to locations that are hard to reach, that you couldn't normally walk through, even if only tiny cracks that only a little bit of air through vapor.
So you're basically turning into vapor.
It doesn't trigger reactions or free actions of any kind, even those that aren't triggered by movement, and then you refresh your powers. Yeah, you just kind of just go.
So it's almost like thematically you're turning into a mist or something like that, but mechanically it's almost like just teleportation. Unblockable.
Well, if there's a solid barrier, you can't get there.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. But as long as there's like even like a tiny crack.
Yes.
So you're not going to go to like the other side of a wall.
But the 100 feet that it can move is probably less than an avatar who's been upping their movement speed could move with Rushing Refresh by level 13. So it's not as much movement, but it's much harder to stop it.
Yes. So
it's a good option to have, especially if you weren't going to take the other ones. It's not a complete upgrade on Rushing Refresh, but it has its charms. Alright, so now let's look at our strongest non-ultimate powers at level 17. We either can choose Hurricane Downdraft or Tempest. So hurricane downdraft is, what if your enemies can also fly? That's not fair. Only you should
Only
be able
you
to
should
fly.
be able to fly.
So you create a vertical cylinder from between 5 to 15 feet of radius with a height from 40 to 200 feet, and the top center must be within 500 feet of you. The bottom far side of the pillar can extend out of range. This is important, I guess, because it means if you are really high up in the air, you can throw it farther because then you're closer to the top center. Whereas if you're on the ground, you can't throw it as far because the top center, if you're gonna make it high, because the top center has to be within 500 feet. Then again, 500 feet is very far, so you're probably not gonna run out of range on this. It does D8s of damage, and it forces
to everybody.
everything in the cylinder, and it forces movement, which does not cause falling damage, but can still be very annoying to your opponents. On a success, the opponent is pushed 10 feet down. On a failure, they are pushed to the bottom or the ground, whichever they reach first. On a critical failure, not only that, but also they fall prone, even if they're not flying.
So you can really get... So whenever you're dealing with flying opponents, which by the time you have 17 level powers, there's going to be a lot of flying opponents. You can get them down and out of your way.
It's also hilarious if you are the ranged kiting person at this point, because you're well past the level where you can just be flying and doing your wind sniper or whatever, and the enemy's like, well, I'll fly up to you.
Nope.
And you're like, okay, how about you move 200 feet down? Also, flying up is difficult terrain.
Yeah.
Well, have fun getting back up here.
Because there are a fair number of opponents that don't really have strong ranged attacks, but that handle their need to deal with flying PCs by having a fast fly speed.
And if they're not a dragon, who have the ridiculously fast enough fly speed that you say, oh, 200 feet, difficult terrain, so 400 feet, yeah, I can do that. Even for dragons, that's actually annoying.
Yes.
That's actually going to take them a little bit. But for anything else where it's like, well, I had an 80-foot fly speed, that's pretty good, right? It's like, okay, good work, buddy. Good work. It's going to take you like 2 turns to get up here. By then, I'm not going to be where I was before.
Yeah.
So, your other option is Tempest. So, this is a 20-foot radius somewhere within 500 feet. It does D6s of slashing damage, but half as many, just like the wall. Flying in the area is difficult terrain for your foes, but not your allies and you. And your foes' physical range attacks that pass through take a -2 circumstance penalty unless it's like a catapult or something. It lasts until you refresh. So
this is going to be a really significant defensive position here.
Yes. Enemies who move in get annoyed, ranged attacks get annoyed in there, and flying is annoying for them. It can be a defensive position. Your allies don't get hurt, so they can just stay in there if they want. Now, your 2 ultimate choices at level 19 are going to be Aeolus or Kama Itachi. So, Aeolus is a 1,000-foot long, 60-foot wide line.
That is a ridiculous line.
Yes.
You don't usually see... Well, the length is ridiculous, but also the width is ridiculous.
Yes. All you and allies in the area are unharmed, and if they're willing, you can move them any distance along the line's path.
So you can move them 1,000 feet away?
Correct. If you want to move 1,000 feet away, you can. Enemies in the area instead take D8s of slashing damage. They are not moved 1,000 feet away. They take D8s of slashing damage.
So how did air become slashing damage?
So air as doing slashing damage is something that's often depicted in a variety, more like less of like the Western depiction of air. It's more of like an Eastern depiction of air, where air is also not one of like the five elements from like the sort of the, I think originally Chinese elemental cycle of elements. And so air was often depicted as like a cutter, or like you see it in Mega Man and certainly in many Japanese depictions as well, as like usually like some kind of a green, almost like crescent shaped thing that's slicing through. Speaking of Japanese depictions, since we are using this kind of depiction for air, then the last ultimate needed to be something that traditionally would be wind and would do cutting and slicing. Kama Itachi, which is basically a weasel that has these sickles of air that like cut you up with a little dust devil in because Aeolus is a Greek mythological wind god. Kama Itachi is going to conjure a powerful flensing dust devil It appears within 1,000 feet. It occupies a 15 by 15 foot area, basically like a huge creature. And every turn, including right when you use the power, you move it up to 60 feet in any direction, including vertically. If it ever gets more than 1,000 feet from you, it dies out. So don't do that. You probably don't have to.
It's probably pretty easy to not go more than 1,000 feet from it. Though, you know, if you also somehow had Aeolus, you could teleport.
Correct.
Want to teleport, but rush yourself at that.
All foes that come within 15 feet of it at any time take d10s of slashing damage, but only half as many as some of the other die sizes. So really, it's just a little bit more than those things we've been saying that do d4s. What was that one? Disrupting Gust. It does a little more than Disrupting Gust every turn. Every turn. And also, if you move through an ally's space and the ally is willing, you could deposit them in one of the spaces when it ends its movement.
So you can use it to reposition your allies as well.
Correct. It can hold up to 1 huge ally, 2 large allies, or 4 medium or smaller allies at a time. So you can intersect around if they're all within 60 feet of each other, pick them all up, and then
grab your party,
slurp them into whichever of the 9 spaces that it's holding that you want them to be in at the end of that movement, if you feel like it. You can do that every turn.
Yeah.
So that's Kama Itachi. So you've got, those are only once an hour. They're ultimates, but they're still pretty good. So you've got a lot of options with air for mobility. Let's see what the elemental avatar picks up for the other abilities. Their elemental locomotion is flying.
What?
That's right. It's flying. You have to end the movement somewhere that can support your weight or you fall. Then the enhanced locomotion is that you don't have to do that.
Yes.
The elemental manipulation, which Linda knows because I use it all the time. Control air and wind in minor ways. You can create or calm down light breezes, cool you down in hot temperatures, similar to wearing a warm weather outfit. Make it harder to detect you via scent by making you downwind, unless the wind is blowing so strongly in the other direction. And the like. Your GM's discretion, make other small adjustments to air and wind. So I always try to bring the air to us.
To try to, like, smell what's going on inside of a room.
Or even try to listen along the wind. All sorts of things like that.
And then we also have someone in the party who's got... who's got tremor sense, so they're constantly like tremor sensing into rooms and like bringing the air out to listen and smell and like scoping all kinds of things out.
That's right. So the elemental resistance gives you a bonus on saving throws against air, and wind that would normally be difficult terrain isn't difficult terrain for you. Wind that would be greater difficult terrain is only standard for you. You also, with the enhanced resistance feat, get +2, and you can just even greater difficult terrain. Wind is not.
So if you're in a storm that already exists for whatever reason, now I'm imagining.
And if you crit fail against an air effect, you get a failure
instead.
instead.
Now I'm imagining one of these teaming up with like a weather-based druid or something like that, and then they're just like all of them messing with everybody's mobility.
So you guys are greater difficult terrain. Even dragons can't ignore that. So it's like, sure, dragon, I know you're one of the really fast ones. You have like 200-foot fly, but it's taking you 3 squares for every square, whereas our elemental avatar is moving 1 square for every square. So they actually maybe are flying almost as fast as you.
Yes.
So then there's Elemental Sculptor. It's a stronger elemental manipulation, so you can create enough wind to make an area difficult terrain for flyers. Give a -1 against physical ranged attacks. 10 by 10 by 10 area of wind that lasts for 1 minute at most. Other things that the GM decides you can do. Then Elemental Senses is a keen sense of smell, imprecise sense out to 30 feet. Although, of course, if you use Elemental Manipulation, you can do 60 feet by making things be in the right direction for you. The Elemental Shield, in addition to the +2 AC, gives you a +1 on reflex saves when you put it up because of the wind. And the Elemental Surge, if you use it as one action, then on the next turn when you use the power, you stride up to half your normal land speed or fly up to half your normal fly speed or step. In addition to everything it says in the power, and at either before or after everything else.
So huge amount of mobility going on there.
Yes, because you could charge up with an Elemental Surge, and then, like, even at first level, right, you could do that on your first turn because you're like, well, I can't do anything else. And then on your second turn, you could, like, wind rush in twice your speed, and then stride half your speed. Or the enemy has a reaction or something, and then you could back up with 1 step from step, and then use your third regular action to just move away. Yeah. There's lots of choices. That is everything that the air element directly gives. Let's look at the eldamon and which of them are good for which thing. And Lynn is putting up Terrapoof. Rico in chat said that Terrapoof is just a fundamentally important one for your basic movement on the map, especially at like high levels, like 13th and above or whatever it is. Is it 11th, 13th, the level where you can meld with your eldamon? It's definitely true. Terrapoof is just simple, common air eldamon. Terrapoof needs to get over body image issues for being worried that people are anxiety about people being like frightened of it for being a bat and just kind of looking scary to be able to evolve.
Little kitty.
Terrapoof's basic elemental ability is wind speed. When using your air powers to move, you get a plus 10-foot status bonus to your speeds, which increases to a 20-foot status bonus if you're an expert in power DCs at level 7. Then a 30-foot status bonus if you're a master power DCs, and a 40-foot status bonus if you're legendary in power DCs.
That's really, really fast.
Yes. If you have that 40-foot status bonus and your druid friend made a storm of greater difficult terrain, you probably are flying faster
Than a dragon.
than the dragon. Because you one-thirded their movement and added 40 to your own.
Yes.
Your form ability, Air Wings, gives you a circumstance bonus to acrobatics checks to maneuver in flight and to arrest a fall. If you are a dragon, then the enemy is really in trouble. And your evolution ability, once you've evolved, is Air Unleashed. Flying upward isn't difficult terrain to you, and you don't have to end the turn by descending to the ground, even if you aren't combined with an eldamon trainer using melded phase. So this means that basically, if you fly up, it's very annoying to your enemies. It works great with sending them to the ground, with the downdraft, with the hurricane downdraft, which is why Terrapoof takes hurricane downdraft in its basic build. So,
Rico's Terrapoof had wholesome appearance for the Renim table, so he shopped it into an even cuter Terrapoof.
There you go. So, Terrapoof is great for anything where you're moving using your powers, because you're going to move really, really far. It's also, if you get the evolved form of Air Unleashed, is great at going up and just staying above everyone else. So, those are things to consider when you're taking Terrapoof, is that Terrapoof is strong on the skirmishing build that use Stride in them. But is also a fair hand at the builds that keep to a distance using the extra speed to keep your enemies away.
And that's what you would expect from the common to be one that's going to be versatile to a variety of builds.
So Larvapor, the air moth eldamon, wants to discover something incredibly soft and fluffy. The elemental ability enveloping air, basically you can choose for your air powers with a line area to increase their length by up to 10 feet, or your air powers with cone burst and emanation to increase their length or radius by 5 feet. If you're a master, these goes to 20 and 10. So basically it has larger areas if you want it to. Its air antennas give it an imprecise scent to smell things at a distance. And its silken puff evolve ability, when it gets all of the softness, allows it to puff of airy silk, providing something akin to cover, which gives a +1 circumstance bonus to AC against ranged attacks and to reflex saves against damaging effects.
So even more defense against ranged attacks for this one.
That's correct. So Larvapor is going to want to have as many area effects as possible, because you can change and modulate their size. Just by starting off, you can make a 20-foot line from your back. What is it? The backlash gust into 30.
And
which also means you can move 30 feet
farther,
away because the line is bigger.
Of the line, yes.
Correct. And if you can get that cone that was 25 feet, you can make it 30 feet. Immediately level 3. So you want all the area effects with Larvapor, not the single target. Now Bubo, the kite owl eldamon, it's not only is it a kite that literally has like a little rainbow kite on it, but it likes to kite its opponents with its wind mobility, although it doesn't kite them as much as Enerix, the paper dragonfly. So wind mobility allows you to, while you're moving, you're concealed. And you gain a +2 circumstance bonus to AC during your own movement, not when somebody else moves you, like on a vehicle or you're riding a horse or something.
Yeah.
So basically, you move through the enemies. If they want to take a reaction on you, fine. You're concealed and you have extra AC. Your kite tail basically can use your kite to perform rolling a performance check against the will DC of a single creature to fascinate them. And protective wings, its evolved ability, if you are able to meet its evolution condition of discovering a truly beautiful tableau of colors or viewing a magnificent rainbow, gives them a single action to interpose the wings, giving a +1 circumstance bonus to AC and reflex saves until the beginning of your next turn, increasing the AC from its wind's mobility ability from +2 to +4 for the same duration.
So these are going to be more up close and personal in their fighting style then.
Yes, they're going to run through the enemies. They're going to get a huge amount of AC against reactions. They'll draw out the reactions from their enemies who take reactions based on movement if the enemies choose to do so. Or they'll just get to move in without the enemies using their reactions against them if the enemies are just like, forget it. I don't want to take that against Bubo. And so they can move in, they can move out, they can do it safely with their protective abilities. So Anerix, the paper dragonfly, is the one that wants to keep the maximum distance for everyone.
So we had our area one, we had our up close and personal one, now we have our sniper.
It's our sniper. And Anerix needs to find a truly remarkable story to read. It's the rare one, by the way. The last two were uncommon. A tale that resonates with them on a fundamental level to evolve. Now, their elemental ability, Air's Reach. Your air powers that have a range within a certain number of feet have their range extended by an additional 50%. This does not change an area, such as the length of a line or a cone. That means that your 720-foot range can be like 1,080 feet. If you eventually have wind sniper at very high levels, it means that some of the other ones that are like within a range of 500 feet, you can make this cylinder. It can be within a range of 750 feet that you can make that cylinder. So you can attack the opponents from a ridiculously long range, which is why Anerix keeps wind sniper all the way up to 15th level in its build, because it's a ridiculously long range. And at 17th level, it has enough things that are really long range
that it can set aside wind
sniper. It could set aside wind sniper. It keeps a gusting curtain that it can just block itself off at that distance just to make things even more annoying for its enemies. So its form ability, paper folding, folds itself up like origami to get through narrow spaces as if it was 2 sizes smaller. Tiny for the medium one, and small when it becomes large for being evolved. And its evolution ability, parchment furling, allows it to furl and unfurl the body like parchment, grabbing onto multiple objects or creatures. By unfurling and extending, its foot attack gets a reach increasing to 20 feet, already reflected in the statistics. And the 6 wings and main body can each hold a medium or smaller creature that is grappled. If they don't have at least 2 wings free, they can't fly. As long as they have at least 1 wing or body free, they can use them to grab an edge. It doesn't allow them to grapple more than a single creature.
Can they carry around the party then at that point?
So, I don't know if they have enough carrying capacity to do that. But
well, I guess their strength is +1
to actually move while doing that. But they can't just have a lot of things grabbed at the same time, because their strength is, by the time that they have that, their strength is +3, I think. At 15th level.
Something party of tiny slimes, something.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. Multiple tiny slimes could ride on a large creature probably anyway. I mean, it's going to slow everybody down, but you might be able to pull it off.
I wasn't thinking about it as a combat thing, but more of we need to cross this ravine or something like that.
So, as you can see, each of these eldamon has a very different playstyle, even though they're sharing from the same pool of powers. They're going to want different powers. You could pick your eldamon or the eldamon within you for an avatar based on the type of powers and playstyle that you're expecting to use. If you're not sure, you can pick a Terrapoof. I picked Terrapoof for mine.
Or if you're an avatar who's if you're an eldamon trainer who's discovering them at random, you can use that to guide the power selection. You'll see too for each of them that their sample default powers very much go in the lines of what we've been talking about.
Linda's trainer has a Larvapor and a Terrapoof. So she's got multiple options in the field of air, just because that's what she found when we were playing the game. So that's how you master air. You just have to, drift like a leaf on the wind and let yourself go in order to understand, just let the wind carry you where you're going to move, except for that you controlled the wind. So
Yes.
you really went where you wanted to go. Alright, so with that in mind, that's how to play Air. Please like or subscribe if you like these guides, these comprehensive eldamon guides, and please join if you want to support us and vote for the next episode. If you'd like to vote, we already have one vote.
So on Tuesday we are going to be continuing our eldamon overlook with the element of Earth.
And we're not going to be here on Saturday because we're going to be at PAX Unplugged.
So if you happen to be attending PAX Unplugged in Philadelphia, please stop by the Roll for Combat booth and say hi.
But if you want to vote for the episode on the Saturday after Thanksgiving, then that is what we're voting for. Right now, put in a 1 if you would like to build a hazard, a 2 if you want us to answer a Q&A, 3 for GM tools of how to run a campaign that's dark but not too dark, 4 we'll play a game, 5 another eldamon element, or 6 anything else, but you have to tell us what you mean.
So I see a vote for 4 and a vote for 3 so
That's
far.
right. It's a tie up here.
Thanks, Rex.
Any other vote that is made?
3, 4, 5.
3, 4, 5. Okay.
Oh man, is someone gonna come and break the tie, or are we gonna need to roll a d3?
We might have to roll a d3. It just depends on what other people are going to vote for. Going to start rolling a d3 just in case. It's a 3-way tie. Rico is here, has noted that he could vote to break the tie.
It's chosen to use RNG.
Not to. Alright, it looks like the winner is the one that's first numerically, which I think is Tyranny.
Yes.
The winner is Tyranny. Oh wait, no, it's not. There's
Wait.
another vote for 5.
Rex changed the vote.
Rex
changed the vote from 3 to 5.
3 to 5, Rex Fearless did.
Yes.
And that means that it is now going to be another eldamon element.
Indeed.
Even though Rex Fearless was going to win
Yes.
the randomized tiebreak
Rex just wanted to stop what Rico had going on there.
There we go. So the Tyranny of Eldamon, which we've never had before, is going to cause us to do either water or light.
Yes.
So we'll have a vote for water or light. All right, everybody. So Eldamon, 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 go. Eldamon, Eldamon. That's all we're going to do for a while. So if you're watching this episode, please watch those other episodes. Because these Eldamon guides are not the most watched episodes that we have. So we'd like to see people enjoying them as we continue through them. All right, take care, everyone, and have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.